How much money should you spend on a 6-weight fly rod? There are some super inexpensive rods out there now that are giving huge names a run for their money. And I recently put my $35 3-weight fly rod to the test against some of those names, and it won. But it got me thinking. My 6-weight fly rod is this 15-year-old Sage, and I absolutely adore this rod. But if a $35 3-weight can beat out Hardy, can a bargain brand 6-weight beat out Sage? I think it's time for another shootout. I want to say thank you so much to everyone who gave me feedback on the 3-weight shootout. You had amazing suggestions, and I've tried to incorporate all of it into this shootout, so thank you very much. Also, to keep with the theme of continuous improvement, we are going to increase the number of casters, and we're going to double the number of rods in this shootout. They're all 6 weights, they're all 9 feet long, they're all fast action. And before we meet them, just very quickly, I want to make sure that everyone knows this video is not sponsored. It's not sponsored by anyone, by any company. None of the gear was free, and all of the conclusions that we came to were based on our experiences casting these rods. Okay, let's meet them. First up, on the frugal end, we have the Max Catch Extreme. It weighs in at 3.7 ounces, and it costs $38. This rod's little sister won the 3-weight shootout. The next rod up is the Fenwick Aetos. It weighs in at 3.5 ounces and it costs $226. A lot of fly shops and some other shootouts have ranked this rod as their best inexpensive rod. I guess they didn't realize how cheap we could go. Third rod, the St. Croix Legend Ultra. This rod weighs in at 3.0 ounces and it sells for $310. Now, this rod was discontinued in 2012. This is the only 2-piece rod in the shootout, and that's why it has the lowest weight. It has less ferrules. Fourth rod, my baby. This is my favorite fly rod that I own. I'm the 3rd member of my family to own it. It was my Uncle John's, and then he sold it to my dad, and then a few years ago, my dad passed it down to me. It is the Sage XP. It weighs in at 3.5 ounces, and it had an original MSRP of $595. Little side story here. The XP line was made from 1999 until 2006, and that means that this rod was discontinued 15 years ago. But there are still many fly fishers out there who will tell you that this rod was the best fly rod made of all time. And if you don't believe me that this rod has a cult-like following, check out this eBay listing from a few months ago, where bidding started at $375, and over the course of 7 days, 24 bids were placed, and the winning bid was over $626. Yes, that means that this rod, used, over 15 years old, is selling today on eBay for more than it was worth when it was brand new. Fifth rod in the shootout, Hardy Zephrus. This rod weighs in at 3.6 ounces and it sells for $669. Now, Hardy's been making the Zephrus since 2015, and I think that they've discontinued production on the Zephrus, but I did check online and some fly shops still have some brand new ones in stock for sale. Here it is, the 6th and final rod of the shootout. And Dad's been raking in some overtime pay during COVID, and he's going to treat himself to a brand new 6-weight. We're not going to talk about what happened to the last one. After hours of research and some time spent at the Bear's Den casting lane, Dad went home with the Douglas Sky. This rod weighs in at 3.8 ounces and it costs $695. Many fly shops and some other shootouts have declared this rod as their winner. So I'm really excited to see how it casts for us. Moving on to the shooters, who's going to be casting these rods? It's going to be me, my dad, and Will. We're not professionals, but we all love fly fishing. We've been doing it for a long time, but it is a hobby for all of us. We all have normal day jobs that don't involve fishing, but we do try to sneak in as much fishing as we can, and we usually go for a few long weekend fly fishing trips a year, and usually, hopefully, at least 1 week-long fly fishing trip every year. Oh my god, you got it.
Fuck you ain't going anywhere.
On to how we're going to score points in the shootout. We think that the most important factors with any fly rod are accuracy and range. So to test accuracy, we're going to cast each rod the same number of times from 5 different distances. For distances up to 50 feet, flies landing on this bullseye are going to score 3 points. Flies landing off the bullseye but within the hula hoop are going to score 2 points. And flies landing outside the hula hoop but within this larger target are going to score 1 point. No points will be scored for flies landing off target. Now for distances over 50 feet, we thought that this bullseye was just a little bit too small, so we're going to grant 3 points to flies landing within the hula hoop and 2 points to flies landing on the larger target but outside the hula hoop when casted from distances farther than 50 feet. To test range, we're going to do something that I like to call the long shot. Each shooter is going to shoot each rod the same number of times with the only goal to cast the fly as far as possible. Each cast length is going to be measured and the averages for each rod are going to be calculated and compared. Now to determine the overall winner, we're going to evenly weight accuracy and long shot because we feel that those are equally important for a 6-weight rod. We'll also show you the cost per point scored, so if you're getting ready to buy a rod, you can figure out how much extra value you're getting by spending more money. We're almost to the shootout, I promise, but first, to make this study a little bit more sound, we're going to implement some controls. Number 1, the reel. We're going to use the same reel on each rod throughout the shootout, and it's going to be this Lamson Guru. It's the 2.0 and it's in the 5/6 weight size. A few more controls. We're going to use the same fly line, leader, and fly throughout the shootout. The fly line is going to be this Royal Wolf 6-weight floating line in a triangle taper. The leader is going to be a 9-foot 5X Rio Powerflex tapered leader, and the fly is going to be this hook shank tied with a little bit of orange fluff to kind of represent a big bushy dry fly that you might throw on a 6-weight rod. Finally, we randomly chose the order that we were going to cast the rods by pulling them out of a hat, and in case we warmed up throughout the shootout, we only casted each rod for half the required cast, and then for the remaining half we casted the rods in reverse order so that each rod is equally represented in the first half of the shootout as the second half. Okay, we're ready. Here we go.
I got Bo. How many points is Bo?
What?
It's rugged.
Okay.
I just want to be done with this rod.
A rod not worth buying.
That was in the hoop. That was in the hoop, and you pulled it onto the bullseye. Tony, I like this rod. It's going places.
As far as that, you see, I like this at short distance. It's like, you put it right on. It's got good feel. You can feel the load and, yeah, it's smooth. Hey, there you go, Hal. It didn't land pretty, but you got some distance.
I don't care, I'm done. Is that my last one? It better be my last fucking one.
What a horrible rod, huh?
That's a bullseye right there.
What is going on here?
You haven't had a non-scoring cast yet with the XP.
Is this really a 6-weight? Yeah.
That is a 6-weight.
Let's see some results. When it comes to accuracy, the rod that scored the most points throughout the shootout was the Fenwick Aetos. It was closely followed by Douglas Sky and the Sage XP. St. Croix and Hardy fell into the bottom half, and Max Catch came in last. And I was kind of disappointed to see Max Catch come in last because it was super impressive in the 3-weight shootout. So I was just a little let down by Max Catch in accuracy. Now, for those of you who want to see all of the data, here are the scores for each rod from each distance tested. And if you look closely, you'll see that if your rivers are a little smaller, or if you're only trying to make casts up to 50 feet, the Douglas Sky actually wins from distances closer than 50 feet. Now let's take a look at the winning rods from each distance tested. And from this we can see that Fenwick wins or ties from 4 out of the 5 distances tested, which I think is very impressive. You know, near range, mid range, far range, the Fenwick dominated almost all of them. So that was super impressive. Douglas wins or ties from 2 distances, which is also very impressive. Sage ties from 2 distances. Hardy ties from 1. And then Max Catch and St. Croix didn't win or tie from any distance. Okay, now let's take a look at the long shots. Fenwick comes in first again. It was closely followed by Hardy. And finally, Max Catch shows up here, coming in 3rd in the long shot. Sage gets 4th, Douglas gets 5th, and St. Croix totally belly flopped. They were in this terrible league of their own where they were 13 feet behind the Fenwick, and even the distance between them and the 5th place finisher was almost 6 feet. So it was not good at the long shot portion of this shootout. Now, how do the overall scores look if we combine accuracy with the long shot results? The winner of our 6-weight fly rod shootout is the Fenwick Aetos. 2nd place was the Douglas Sky. 3rd place was the Sage XP. Not the best rod of all time, I guess. 4th was Hardy Zephrus. 5th was the St. Croix Legend Ultra. And 6th was the Max Catch Extreme. Again, really bummed. From what we saw from the 3-weight, I was really expecting to see the Max Catch higher up in these ranks. Now, as promised, let's take each rod's cost and divide it by the points scored. Now, this is where the Max Catch really shines. It found its place. Coming in at 31 cents per point, it blows the competition out of the water as far as value goes. You're spending pennies compared to the others for the points that you get with the Max Catch Extreme. Now, next up as far as value goes is the Fenwick, which I think is incredible because, you know, it won accuracy, it won long shot, and here it is coming in 2nd as far as dollars per point scored. That's just an insane value. So that actually comes out to $1.38 per point scored for the Fenwick. St. Croix comes in midfield around $2.50 per point scored, and then Sage, Douglas, and Hardy are all up in the $4 to $5 range. They all scored quite a few points, but they do have much higher price points. Now, all that data is great, but is it repeatable and can it apply to you? So I thought to kind of hash through that a little bit, we would recalculate all the data by shooter. So we could see if all 3 of us had similar results or different results in the different categories. So let's take a look. And what we did here was we took each caster's scores and transferred those to rod ranks, with 1 being the 1st place rod for that shooter and 6 being the last place rod for that shooter. So if we crunch those numbers for accuracy by shooter, Douglas is in the top 2 for all shooters, and Fenwick is in the top 3 for all shooters. Max catch is always in the bottom 2, so I think those are pretty repeatable results that would hopefully transfer to you if you're looking at these rods. In the long shot portion of the shootout, max catch did much better and was in the top 3 with Hardy for all shooters. Unsurprisingly, St. Croix came in last for all shooters, and we probably saw that coming because it was so much further behind all the other rods in the long shot portion. We have some more thoughts about that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. Now, looking at the best rod by shooter, including accuracy and long shot data, Fenwick is in everyone's top 2, which lines up with the overall winner being Fenwick. Douglas is in everyone's top 3, and Max Catch and St. Croix are in the bottom 2 for all shooters. And while earlier I was a little upset that Sage didn't live up to the best rod of all time tag that it had been given, I was really heartwarmed to see that it was the best rod overall for me. Now, there might be a little bit of bias in this data because the Sage XP is my personal 6-weight fly rod. I've been fishing with this rod for years. I'm very familiar with it. I understand how it loads and unloads and its sweet spots, so it might not have been fair to include it in the data here. So to eliminate my bias here, let's take a look at the results quickly, just without Sage altogether. Now, I think that this is the most compelling data of the shootout. When you take Sage out to eliminate my bias, all 3 shooters of the shootout have almost the exact same rod rank. So this is overall, this is accuracy with long shot data. And Fenwick comes in first for all of us. Douglas comes in second. Hardy comes in third. And there's a little bit of misalignment here, but Max Catch and St. Croix are always in the bottom 2. And since these results were so repeatable across the 3 of us, I really hope that this would be repeatable for you guys, and you can use this data to help you making a decision about your next 6-weight. Now, me, my dad, and Will did debrief a little bit after the shootout, and here are some of the highlights from that. We were really surprised when actually most of the rods felt like they were being overpowered by that 6-weight triangle taper line. So I did a little bit of overanalyzing. I looked up the AFFTA approved fly line weight specification. Granted, this scale doesn't quite go out as many significant figures as I would like it to, but it does still weigh in this line at 11 grams. That's higher than the specified targets, and it might explain why some of these rods were feeling overpowered. Now, speaking of the Aetos, we all loved it. It won, but it was super fast. Maybe too fast. It might be a tippet breaker. And when we started thinking about it some more, on a trip that we took last summer, Will actually did break off several fish on the hook set with this rod. So if you're gonna buy it, or if you have it, it casts beautifully, but I would try really hard to dial back your traditional trout hook set and try for something with a little more finesse. Another quick debrief note, that St. Croix Legend Ultra felt a little bit like false advertising, calling it a fast action 6-weight. I mean, during the shootout, I honestly had to check the rod because I thought it was a 5-weight. It might not be a terrible rod, but if it were my rod and I were going to fish with it, I would underline it with a 5-weight, or I might even try casting it with a 4-weight line. We had so much more to say about all of these rods, but the video is getting a little long, so I will add more detailed comments about each of the rods in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video or leave a comment if you thought it was cool or if you have some feedback to provide. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good luck out there fishing, guys. And I have a bug on me. Oh my goodness.